It's the SeizeYourBusiness.com podcast with Tony Rourke and Kevin O'Flaherty.
SeizeYourBusiness.com, making you money. Share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn, Twitter, our blogs, YouTube videos. Listen to our podcast, getting so hot that it's burning up the stereo.
Welcome to the SeizeYourBusiness.com podcast, coming to you from our speakeasy in lovely downtown Downers Grove, Illinois. Our guest today is Taji Clark from Coldwell Banker Residential Real Estate. Our hosts are Kevin O'Flaherty from O'Flaherty Law and myself, Tony Rourke from ADR Business Resource Group. If you find the podcast helpful, or if you just want to help us out, we would appreciate it if you would review us on iTunes or share our podcast on social media. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Kevin.
Thanks, Tony. Our topic today is going to be 5 steps towards financial freedom. And let's start, Taji, thanks for being here today. Let's start by tell me a little bit about your business experience. I know it's you've done a lot of stuff in business, and I'd like to hear about everything that you're doing currently and the stuff you've done in the past.
All right. So currently I'm a real estate broker. I also have done real estate investing. I have owned and still do business as a baker, and I still have, baked cupcakes and cheesecakes and all kinds of delicious goodies. And I also own a consulting firm that brokers home and business services.
Okay. So what are, in all of your many business areas, what are some of the lessons that you've learned, advice that you could pass on to other business owners and entrepreneurs?
I've learned a lot of lessons, that's for sure. I've taken, my share of bumps and bruises. But I guess some things that have been helpful for me were, finding a mentor and finding mentors for one, and then two, making things easy, doing a sequence of steps to help you accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish. If it's business success, then, there's a sequence of steps that you can follow. And you just basically model other people that have had success with what you want to do and follow the steps. And typically that generates the outcome that you're looking for. So
in episode 5, Tony, we talked to Scott Mathis about finding a mentor. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear a lot more about your sequence of steps, but let's start by how did you go about finding a mentor for yourself?
Okay, so let's say, for example, with real estate, I'm with Coldwell Banker now. I chose Coldwell Banker because of the resources and the tools and the training and all of that. But at my particular office, and this goes for any industry, anything, there's always a top producer. There's always somebody that carries the business or does the best in a particular area. So, I linked myself with that individual. I just basically said, but teach me what you know. I'll give you whatever resources I have. I'll, in exchange for you helping me, I'm good with social media. I'm good with, building brand, good with marketing. I've done a lot of that, in my career. So I said, I'll help you with marketing if you, teach me and show me, what things I need to do to build my real estate business. So.
And how did you go about getting the knowledge from that person's brain into yours? Was it just sitting down over beers and talking, or was there actually a process where you were taught certain things and you got together regularly?
Yeah, I would sit down with her and I would say, just any question I could think of. She probably got sick of me at some points, but she was very gracious and very humble and easy to talk to, down to earth. And I would say things like, what are some things that you do on a regular basis that have helped you get to the level that you're at now? And she would tell me, do open houses, sit floor time, contact your sphere of influence and reach out to them regularly, not just to talk about real estate, but just to see how they're doing, find out where they are in life, and then maybe you can help. So, I just took hold of the information that she gave, and I just tried to implement it as best I could, and it's resulted in every year in succession me having the best year in real estate than the previous year. So,
and how many years have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate for almost 10 years, and I've been at Coldwell Banker for about almost 4 years.
Okay, cool.
So once you guys had that initial couple conversations about, what your mentor was doing to be successful. Did you have, regular follow-ups? Did you check in and continue to go back to your mentor and touch base?
Yeah, ultimately she asked me to, she has a team, so ultimately she asked me to join her team. So now, I see her and, sit with her and chat with her, and, we bounce ideas off of each other regularly. She bounces ideas off of me with regards to marketing and social media and, all of that. And I bounce ideas off of her. She's been in the business for almost 30 years. And so that's just a wealth of knowledge that she is able to give. So we help each other out with that.
So it sounds like.
Oh, go ahead, Tony.
No, you first.
No, well, what I'm hearing is that, a lot of people's hesitation in getting a mentor is you don't want to be just kind of asking for help without giving anything in return. And you want to be respectful of people's time and not be just someone that's a leech on somebody's knowledge. But what you're doing is you're doing a little bit of quid pro quo. You're mentoring her in certain aspects, and she's mentoring you in other aspects. And it seems like a really good symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, one of the things I've learned is that the business world is all about value and reciprocity. So, you just build value. Don't always worry about what the reciprocal effect will be. Just build value. Take whatever it is that you have a talent at and give it to the world, and then it just comes back to you. That's just one of the things I've learned.
That's something we've heard a couple times on this podcast.
That's another one of those reoccurring type conversations we just keep coming up with.
The abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. If you do enough good for people, the universe will reward you.
Yeah.
Not in the karmic way, but you'll just get paid back for all that good you do.
And I think one of the really cool things that came out of that conversation, but not explicitly, you were obviously smart enough that you knew to just ask questions and shut up.
Right.
Okay, because you don't know everything, right? Who does? So you found a smart person.
Right.
You asked question. You gave her value. And obviously it worked.
Well, one of the things I learned is you really can't learn anything by talking. You learn by asking, and listening. So, that's what I did, and it's been helping a lot.
Good.
So you were talking about a step-by-step process that was the other thing you learned early on.
Right.
Tell me about your process.
So, I do a lot of personal development and, listening to audios and reading books and all of that. I'm a firm believer in always building one's self and learning and growing and all of that. So one of the people that I listen to is David Bach. And so David Bach has a series of books and, they are all, talking about finishing rich. Start smart, finish rich, and start late, finish rich, and smart women finish. All these kinds of different topics that center along the lines of taking a sequence of steps to finish, rich or finish wealthy. And so he goes through this series of. There's this one audio I have that's awesome, and he goes through this series of questions that he asks of an audience when he's doing a speech or when he's doing a conference. And so the first thing he says that he starts out with is he asks, do you want to be rich? And then all of a sudden who wants to be rich? Everybody's hand goes up in the air. But he said the real question, the question behind the question is why?
Okay.
Why do you want to be rich? Why do you want to be successful? Why do you want to have, what is it that's driving you to want to get to whatever the ultimate goal is? And so you have to have a why, because that why will help you accomplish. If you don't have a why, if you don't have a reason for going after what it is you're going after, then, when you come up to the challenges that you'll face, when you come up against adversity, you won't have the strength, the mental strength, the emotional strength to stick it out no matter what. But if you have a why, whether it be, you want to create a legacy for your family, or, you have a sick parent, or, that you want to retire, or just any number of things. Everybody has their own reasons for what they do, but it has to be strong enough to carry you through the tough times and make you persevere. The second thing he says, or he asks, is, do you pay yourself first? There's also another audio book that I've listened to. It's called, what is the name of this? The Richest Man in Babylon. Okay, so Richest Man in Babylon, it's a parable, and it talks about, paying yourself first, and it, goes through a sequence of steps similar to David Bach's steps, but do you pay yourself first? And he recommends paying yourself 10% of your own income and doing it automatically the same way that, if you go to a health club, they automatically do withdrawals from your account. So he says doing automatic withdrawals into, some sort of a savings or some sort of an IRA or some sort of a, retirement account or something like that, that is allowing you to pay yourself first. So that was step 2. Step 3 would be tracking your expenses. Are you tracking he calls it a latte factor. Do you know your latte factor? Which, if you think about somebody going and getting a cup of coffee every day, what does that transpire? Well, what does that equate to after a week or after a month? Most people don't even think about it. They just go get the latte. Tall white mocha for me, Starbucks.
Hey, I'm a soy mocha, so I get it.
So, but they do this and they don't think about, the effects that it has on their bank account and all of that. They just get it and that's it. But learning to and regularly tracking all of your expenses, not necessarily just your lattes, but your whatever you spend money on, down to the penny. Track whatever it is you spend money on. If you can't see your money, you can't grow your money. So that would be step 3. Step number 4 would be, do you own your own home? There are countless numbers of the Robert Kiyosaki's, the Donald Trump's, everybody that is anybody in the financial world has talked about using real estate as a way to build wealth. Mm-hmm. And so this would be no different. Do you own your own home? If you're a renter, you're basically paying money, to a landlord you'll never get back. Mm-hmm. You're making his pockets fatter, but that money is gone for you forever. So do you own your own home? So that's something that you definitely should look into doing. And then number 5, the last thing is, do you own your own business, or do you have a way to create income beyond just your regular 9-to-5? Not knocking anybody that has a 9-to-5. I've been there. I've been a corporate guy, sat behind a desk, all of that. That's just not what I want to do anymore. And decided I would never do that again. But
in episode 4, Ken Adams called that being a job zombie.
No job zombieism for me. It's just a terrible feeling. It always felt terrible. I can't remember a time it ever felt good to be working for somebody else. I did it because I had to, I guess, at some times, but I hated that feeling. So David Bach talks about, finding some kind of a way to, own your own business, even if it's a small thing. Robert Kiyosaki calls it minding your own business. And so, yeah, take anything. I mean, there's tons of ways to do it. If you have a whole lot of money, you can go buy yourself a McDonald's or a Subway or Dunkin' Donuts, any litany of businesses that are out there to be able to start your own business. There are network marketing companies. A lot of people are, network marketing. It's this whole taboo thing, but
it's not.
There's ways that you can, spend $30 to, $500 to start your own business. The plan is already set in place for you, and all you have to do is follow a system. They provide the system, and if you keep your mind open and actually do the work, don't expect to have money just drop on your lap, then you can earn a significant amount of income. And there's other things. There's, if you know how to make bracelets, make bracelets. If you know how to, anything. If you know how to bake cakes, bake a cake. If you know how to, just whatever talent that you have, whatever skill set you have, use that, as a way to earn income beyond using it to earn somebody else's income.
Okay, Taji, you're a smart guy, and I think this is a good question that you can answer.
Thanks.
Once you get to that point, you're in corporate America. you're a job zombie. You're tired of it. All right. You're
Right.
just done. And all of us have done it. The three of us here for sure. I know we've all done it. Once you make that decision, there's another decision that you have to make at the same time, and that's getting over that fear that is grabbing you by the throat, right, and keeping you in place at that chair, at that desk. What kind of advice would you give somebody that's right on that cusp? Because I know Kevin and I believe that whoever's watching this either own a business or want to own a business, and we've talked about in previous episodes that there's a lot of people that want to do it, but just
They just can't find the gumption.
they need to jump.
That goes back to the first step, the first tip. You start with your why.
Okay.
If you don't have a strong why, you will never jump off that ledge. You just won't do it. Your why is not strong enough. So if you're not doing it, that just means your why is not strong enough. And so you have to find what it is about what your future looks like to you that will make you jump off that ledge. Start small. I mean, do something. Start small. Keep your full-time job, but start minding your own business also.
I agree.
For me, the realization was on my honeymoon. We started talking about having kids and wanted my wife to work part-time or not have to work. And the realization dawned on me that somehow in the next 3 years, I was going to have to double my salary. And that just wasn't going to happen by asking my employer for a, 100% raise. So, I wanted something more out of life than what my job could give me. And, that made it not an easy decision, but it was the why for, why to leave the comfort of an okay job and, do something a little bit more risky, but that had a higher ceiling of reward.
Right. Yeah. Robert Kiyosaki talks about the 3 motivators for people, and I forget what order he puts them in, but one is wanting to be secure, one is wanting to be comfortable, and the last one is wanting to be rich. And I think that's actually the level or the sequence that most people take first. They want to be secure first. Mm-hmm. They want to know that their bills are paid and that they can have a place to sleep and all that kind of stuff. And then they want to be comfortable. So they want the comforts, the creature comforts, the ability to be able to go buy yourself a latte anytime you want, or, whatever, the car, all those things. And the last thing, the final thing is to be rich, but for a lot of entrepreneurs, the first thing they want to do is be rich. And so they're willing to risk not being comfortable and risk not being secure so that they can accomplish being rich.
And that is a great point. I think that keeps people trapped at the desk because we're all afraid of discomfort at some level.
Right.
And I don't know about you guys, but just making that decision to get out from behind that desk, that was very uncomfortable. Still is some days, to be honest with you. But then I think about it, I can't go back, man. I'm unemployable at this point in that regard. I just can't. I'd rather live on that cliff, about ready to go splat, than go back to that environment. I just can't do it.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I tried it several years ago. I tried, I'm going to go and see if I can go get myself a steady paycheck. And then, walking around this office and people younger than me telling me what to do and just all these, bad idea.
No,
I couldn't do it. And so I had to, you
had to figure something else out.
Right.
I mean, and that's what I would also tell people, just figure it out. Just jump. And then hell yeah, it's going to suck some days. You're going to wake up in a cold sweat at 2-3 o'clock in the morning some days, right?
Yep.
I've heard you talk about it. Hell, you might have a couple of days you won't sleep.
Yeah. It's going to suck a lot of the time. But the reward is so much more worth it than, to go to a place that you hate every day, sit in traffic for however many hours you have to sit in traffic and just, be around and work around people that you don't like and, just all these things, not being able to go to lunch when you want to and not being able to take a vacation when you want. That's just crazy to me.
I just got tired of being around unhappy people.
That too.
That was just brutal.
People with no goals, no aspirations, no, drive, no passion.
Yeah, they're just clocking in a check and they're alive, but I don't know much about how much living they're doing.
Let's talk a little bit about step 2, which is paying yourself first.
Right.
Something, that sounds nice. And when that's really hard to do when you first start a business.
Sure.
And something that I think about is when you get started on your business, you've got your why, you've got your big vision of what the business is for, what it's going to add to your life.
Right.
But then you've got your goals in the business. And your baseline goal is your minimum acceptable results. If your business doesn't achieve these results within X time period, then you've got to fold up and go get a job somewhere, build capital, and start over again. So that when you start your business, your minimum acceptable results might be just, pay my mortgage along with my wife's salary, and just, even if I'm not making any money, as long as I'm seeing some sort of positive traction. But as your business grows, your minimum acceptable results shift. And that's where you get to the point where, my minimum acceptable results have shifted from, hey, being able to pay payroll without taking a paycheck to expecting to get paid my part of payroll every week. And that's where and having enough to save 10%.
Right.
So, sometimes when you're just starting a business, it seems like it's unrealistic to say, right when I'm starting, I plan on being able to stash away 10% for myself, because you can't sometimes.
Right.
But you need a timeline of how long can I persist without saving? How long can I keep putting my money into the business versus the business paying me money? And as the business progresses, the goalpost will shift as to what's the minimum acceptable results for my business. And just before I give up the floor for a second, and then the other 2 goals are what does success look like?
Right.
In the short term, success in the short term for me right now is above and beyond my paycheck, having the business turn some sort of profit. And then what's your big entrepreneurial dream? Well, that might be, not working at all and just having more money than you can, know what to do with. But when someone asks how much money do you want your business to make, it's not that easy. You've got to break it up into the 3 categories. What's the minimum amount where it's not failing? What would be a good year? And then where are you trying to ultimately get it?
Yeah. I think, and it goes into everybody's comfort level. What's comfortable for one might not be comfortable for somebody else. So, if you were to call your mortgage company and say, I don't have the money this month, I'm going to give it to you next month. They're going to start calling you all the time. There's going to be, it's that serious. And so, as far as paying yourself first and taking that 10%, you have to be that serious about your 10%. But, so that might not be comfortable for some people. I think, like Robert Kiyosaki said, he'd rather be rich. So he saved that 10%. He saved whatever percentage it was, even though it wasn't comfortable. And he found a way to make sure he paid all his other bills and continue to grow that. So I think, and that's why David Bach recommends having it done automatically so that you don't touch it, having it just automatically come from your account, an automatic withdrawal, something that you don't even see. When you're a corporate zombie, job zombie, what was the term?
It was job zombie.
When you're a job zombie and so you pay your 3% and your company matches 3%, at first, you're like, I'm going to pay 3%, and it feels weird and you don't know where that money's going to come from. But ultimately you end up not thinking about it. It's just gone. And so you just learn to live without it. Same concept with paying yourself first. You just let it happen automatically. You learn to not even see it, you learn to live without it. And, just, I guess, build on it over time.
So maybe what you're talking about is setting that savings as a minimum acceptable result for your business early on. Because there's 2 times in my business that I'm going to actually be working nights and weekends. It's either when I'm on the cusp of something big and I know if I just push through, like with this podcast, I feel like if we do this right, something great could happen. Or it's when my business is in danger of not meeting my minimum acceptable results. So, otherwise I'll work my 9 to 5. And I think it's important to have, a balance in your life. But if you set that benchmark where my minimum acceptable result is to pay what I need to pay my bills and save 10%. And then if you're below that red line of making that, then that means you're going to be working harder and pushing a little bit harder. Right. And if that is all fed into your why, your reason for doing everything, then you don't mind working a little harder to meet that result.
Absolutely.
But one of the things I'll definitely say about you, Kevin, is that you have figured out a balance. Because you're very, very adamant. You're done at 5, so you can be with your kids.
Well, that's my why.
I know, and that's exactly why I brought that up, because that's everybody's got their like you said earlier, everybody's got their different why. I mean,
right.
My why, and we've talked about this in a past episode. I think it was with Doreen. Petty.
Yes.
Yeah. But my why informs my business decisions.
Yes.
So if the whole purpose of my business is to give me time with my family and the freedom to spend time with my family, it doesn't make any sense for me to go to a cocktail hour that I'm not hosting unless there's a huge return on investment, unless I'm going to close some big client, which has never been the case for any cocktail hour. So, that's why I leave at 5, and, sometimes I'll work when they're sleeping. I'll work till, on this podcast, I've worked till 4 a.m. getting stuff together, but it's during their nap times and while they're sleeping. And being a business owner is all about having priorities. You're never going to be able to do everything you want to do in a day. You've got to figure out where the family falls on that priority list, and where your emails fall, and where, new sales calls fall, and figure out your priorities.
And it's really depending on the job, because I remember when I was working at Arthur Andersen, and that's when I first dipped my toe in the programming world, and I would work my butt off, get off at like 3:34 because I started at 6:30. I'd go home, play the kids, dinner, and then start right back up at work again. So my point is you can do that as a job zombie, or you can do that for yourself. You're still going to do it. Pick your lane, pick your poison, right? Because we believe you haven't done enough job zombie work for even including you in this conversation.
No, because even when,
which is also cool.
On step 5, when you talk about owning a business, even when you're working for someone else, get something going on the side, whether it's making bracelets. Before the law firm was even a twinkle in my eye, I was taking all of my money and investing in gyms, and that was my exit strategy from my job. As soon as I had a critical mass of gyms having a inflow of cash flow, then I didn't have to work anymore.
Right.
But you need an exit strategy from your job, other than working till you're 65 and hoping that you don't get fired.
Yeah.
And hoping that you get a pension now.
Yeah.
For me, it was real estate. I just, I worked, full time as a marketing guy for a medical imaging company. And, on the side, I started, figuring out how to buy properties and, flip properties and, have renters and all these things. So, that was one of the things that was my exit strategy at the time.
When did you, you said you had a baking business?
I did. I had a store, a physical store. It was called Desserts du Jour.
When did that get removed from the strategy?
So I had a storefront, and that part was cool. It was cool to say, I have a storefront, come to my store and check out my, check out all my desserts, check out the store, all that stuff. That was nice. What turned me off about having a brick and mortar type of business was I didn't like, well, for one, I was running everything. I was the baker. I was the delivery guy. I was the marketing guy. I was the, cashier. I was just everything. And then I ended up hiring folks, and nobody cared about the business as strongly as I did.
Okay.
So when the cat was away, the mice would play. I'd come in and, somebody's on their phone or on the computer and all that stuff. And, I don't like to be firing people, and I'm just not that kind of guy. So I didn't want to have to deal with that. It just became overwhelming. It was the overhead, the dealing with, all the day-to-day things that started making the baking part of it not as much fun. So, I decided to close the store down, and now I can bake whenever I want to, if I feel like it.
If you feel like it.
And make money that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
You looked like you were going to say something.
No, I'm good. No, I'm good.
We were talking a little bit about, I mentioned that the only 2 times I'll work late nights is when I'm working on something big I'm excited about, or when I'm not meeting my minimum acceptable results. I'll tell you, it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more rewarding to be up till 4 a.m. working on something you're excited about and taking your business to the next level and big picture strategy than it is to, oh crap, I have to make payroll next week and I better crank out some extra hours in order to get this done, or find a way to repair my business. But when you're first starting, you're always going to be working more on the, oh crap, timeline.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that, with getting this podcast launched, will fluctuate every day. Half the day will be like high up in the new and noteworthy list on iTunes, and then the second half of the day will pop down to like number 35. And then as we've gone on, we still fluctuate, but it's less of a fluctuation and more towards the high end. And that reminds me of how my business went, where, you'd have your old crap moments, and then you'd be working on something exciting, and, it would fluctuate between the two. But as you fix your business and go through different iterations of your business and get better at it, you spend more time fluctuating still between oh crap and working on exciting ideas, but it's much more in the fun, exciting ideas sphere
Yes.
than, the are we going to make payroll this week sphere.
Sometimes it feels like, for me, it feels like a lot of times there are some days I'm on a cliff. Sometimes you can just look over the edge and you go, and then sometimes you're on the edge and it feels like something is pushing you right over that edge. Yeah. You're always going to be on the edge though. So it's just really structure everything in such a way that you're on the edge looking over because you want to be on the edge and looking over, and not because of some name it behind you pushing you that way.
Darren Hardy calls that feeling the entrepreneur roller coaster, where you're going to have your up days, you're going to have your down days, you're going to have some times that are really exciting, you're going to have some times that are scary, you're going to have some times that are boring, but it's all part of being an entrepreneur. And he talks about keeping the bar down, keep your expectations low, strive for success, strive for greatness, strive for whatever it is that that is important to you, but keep the bar down. Don't let the successful times, weigh too heavily, and don't let the down times weigh too heavily. Just, keep an even keel. And
that's good advice. That's something I've struggled with, because I'll go through, a quarter where, oh yeah, the firm's making a ton of money, and now we can do all these new initiatives, and I've got all these great ideas that I'm trying to employ, and then we'll hit a road bump. And it won't be the type of road bump I had 2 years ago where it's like, okay, I'm not taking a paycheck for a while. I'll still get my paycheck, but the sales team isn't coming together the way I want it to, so I've got to reboot that idea and restart. And if you get too high with the highs and think, all right, now I'm on the cusp of taking over the world, and right. Next year I'm going to be rich. If you get too high like that, you go back to being just as frustrated with little failures as you were with the existential failures that you had early on in the business.
Yep. Right. And you won't get, if you get too high, it seems like when you have a failure, that failure really weighs hard on you.
Right.
But if you get to some kind of normal point, you kind of get to that failure and you go, oh, all right. Or you get to that problem, you kind of go, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Deal with it, and you're done.
Right.
But if you're too high, for some reason, our brains are so whacked out that if you're too high on enthusiasm and you come across this pin of a problem, but it actually feels like the laptop of a problem, it'll trip you up. And I've never figured that one out. I don't think I can, but
just keep the bar down.
Just keep it down.
Low, stay even.
To me, it's building your infrastructure. I mean, it used to be that every time an employee quit, it would be a nightmare for me. And it would be, oh crap, we got to find somebody, and I've got to take on that role. And now, with a stronger infrastructure, with written systems in place, with enough people working for me that someone can fill in, it's an employee quits, and I ask my office manager to find someone and train them. And it's not really even a hiccup in my day. Hate to lose good people, but it's the things that would have been major problems 2 years ago with a good infrastructure are much less of a problem.
No.
Now you're taking on bigger. If you're a real entrepreneur, you're always trying to take on bigger and bigger bites of the pie and new tasks. So you're going to have different types of failures, and different types of roadblocks to overcome. And there's a lot of times, again, with this podcast, this is an area we've never dealt with before. And I felt like I had the tools to deal with my past business problems, and I had to create a new tool set to, learn how to do this successfully. Mm-hmm. And it's, although if this whole podcast were to fail tomorrow, it wouldn't be an existential threat to my family's well-being.
Of course.
You know,
right.
so
No.
it's like the stock market chart. There's going to be ups and downs, but you want to see it in an upward trajectory.
Yeah, as long as that arrow is going up and to the right,
Yeah.
life is
The
good.
down should be higher from the left. I want to, I know we're past our normal half hour, but I want to talk about, I believe step 3 was keeping an eye on your expenditures.
Right. Tracking your expenses.
How did you go about doing that? Did you have a budget program?
Yeah. So when I first started doing that, I just wrote it down. I had these spreadsheets that I created, and I just wrote everything down, and I mean to the penny. If I spent 1 cent, I wrote down 1 cent. Where I was just that crazy. But I had to be fanatical about it because my mentor at that time told me, track your expenses. You need to know if you can't see your money, you can't grow your money.
Mhm.
It's like trying to water a tree in the dark. You're walking around with this pot that you're trying to figure out where this plant is, and you can't grow it because you can't see it. So I tracked everything. Today, there's so many different tools that you can use. There's Mint, and there's just a widespread list of tools that you can use to help you with that. I think the most popular one, or at least the one that I use, is Mint. So that allows you to be able to track your bank accounts and your credit card accounts and your spending and all of that stuff. So in today's time, this day and age, I'd recommend using some sort of an app or something that makes it easy. But if you're old school, there's nothing wrong with writing it all down and keeping track of it that way.
When Scott Mathis came in and started helping me out with my business back in August, one of the first things he did was took a look at my merchant service fees. And he said, you're paying, I forget what we were paying, but it was like 2.5 or 3%. It's like, if we can bring this down by 1 percentage point, you're going to make $20,000 more this year. And I was always of the philosophy, like, you know what, if I can build a good machine here and get enough business in and process that business, the expenses, I'll address that later, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize I was costing myself, $20,000 a year by not really examining if I could reduce this particular expense.
Sure.
So that's just kind of an everyday example of that's, one thing that you wouldn't think of, reducing merchant service fees by 1% can have a big return. So if you examine all of your costs, your business expenses that way and see where you can cut it out, a penny saved really is a penny earned, and
Right.
you can work a little less hard to make more money to make up for those extra expenses.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to add, Taji?
I'm going to be like Nike and just say, just do it. If you're thinking about, if you're sitting on the fence, if you're somewhere at a cubicle or somewhere at a warehouse, if you're somewhere, on a construction site, whatever it is, and if you are thinking, I'd rather be somewhere else, I hate this, I cannot stand this, I should be doing X, Y, Z, then take a talent, just explore what you're talented at, and take a risk.
Before I let you go, the thing you're most qualified to talk about was the 4th step, and that was owning your own home. You're a realtor.
Right.
Give me a couple words on that and what you think about why that's an important thing, and we'll tell people how to reach out to you so if they want to own their own home and buy something.
Okay, so with real estate, I look at almost everything in life kind of the same way. You start with why. So, okay, if you're planning on buying a home, what is it that home is going to help you accomplish? Or what is it going to help you, what end is it going to help you get to? Buying a home can be fun. There can be a lot of positive things, but there's also some stress to it. I've bought several properties, and so each time it was really stressful for me. But it got less stressful every time, that I did it. So now, having had that experience, several times over, I shared that experience with other people. So start with what it is that you want the home to accomplish. What do where do you want to be? What does it look like for you? And so you use that as the fuel to help you get to, where you want to be. There are going to be some bumps along the way. There's the mortgage process, and there's all kinds of things that will come up that can seem stressful. So Make sure that you get qualified professionals to help you with every aspect of it, from the legal aspect of it, to the mortgage aspect of it, to the finding a home aspect of it. Get some people that you trust, and work with those people. Trust them to do their job, and you focus on the fun part, which is shopping for a house.
If someone wants to hire you to help them find a house, how can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me via my website. They can go to just tajiclark.com. So www.taji, T like Thomas, A-J-I, Clark, C-L-A-R-K.com. Email by tajihclark1@gmail.com. Or they can just call me, 331-202-1604.
Right.
And, I'm happy to talk.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us.
That was excellent.
Thanks for
a
having
lot.
me.